Just over 2 years ago, we had a 10-year-old girl join our writing group called Lily. Now, she suffers from SPD, which is sensory processing disorder. It's a neurological problem. And we've been sort of learning a little bit about it as time's gone on. And so I've asked Lily and her mum, Laura, to come and have an interview to explain a little bit more about it, because it's not very well known. The one thing that, regardless of the fact that this is quite a debilitating a condition at times for her, she's always happy. One of the most popular girls in the group, and it's not stopped her from creating and being creative. In fact, we're about to publish her novel very shortly. And earlier in the year, she climbed Scafell Pike, which is the highest mountain in England, and raised over £2,000 for our group. So even though it's been quite problematic for her, it's not stopped her doing the things that she wants to do. And you'll see a bubbly personality within the interview. What was the first that you knew about SPD?
I kind of struggled to know what it was all about, what was going on really.
Yeah.
So I used to do my research in the middle of the night on my phone and on Google, trying to work out what the hell was going on.
And how long before you realised there was, there's something not quite right?
I mean, I kind of, initially I just thought she was a very sensitive little girl.
Yeah.
And she always was, and she, you always wanted to be with me, didn't you? And probably that was a bit of kind of avoiding having to deal with stuff, if you know what I mean. We would go around to your little friends. We had a little group, like the NCT group, and all your little friends would be kind of running around and bumping to each other, and all of that. And Lily would just be sitting in the corner reading a book, or just look, even when she was tiny, just looking through books, or playing with a fluffy toy or something. And you never wanted to join in with stuff, did you? Didn't want to sit in the circle with all the little ones or anything like that. And you were always sensitive to light, and if we went out for a walk and it was a windy day, she'd be kicking off.
Yeah.
We'd have to go home, or but it was always kind of just her, and it was sort of manageable really until you started school, wasn't it? And then it just got really hard.
Yeah.
You'd think that, because we were talking about this the other day, weren't we, that they have sort of checkups when they're toddlers and all of that, and you go and you have them weighed and measured and all that, don't you?
And
then
they
do
the well,
and they do all that, and you go and they do assessments and stuff, just to check on you, make sure that you're growing okay, you're putting on weight and all of that sort of stuff.
In your house?
Yeah. And you go and you go to, I can't remember where you used to go, so we used to go down to whatever it is in Royston, and get you weighed and measured, and you had to go for developmental assessments and all of that. And all that was all fine, and no worries, and they'd ask if there was anything going on, anything to worry about.
Yeah.
And I'd tell them that you didn't sleep and you were always standing up and you didn't like, stuff, and it was just like, it's fine, she'll grow out of it, and all that. So we just bumbled along, didn't we, really, until you started school and it got hard, and then we had to do something about it.
Was there any particular incidents at school that just sort of made you think, oh, hang on a second?
I do remember, one incident where we did, a forest school thing, and one day it was really muddy, and they said, "Oh, put your boots on," and I was like, "No, I don't want to put my boots on," and the teacher thought I was just being really awkward and annoying, and she was, ordering me to put my boots on, and I was just, no, I really don't want to put my boots on. And then I was, on the floor crying, and she was like, "What's wrong? Just put your boots on, you're going to get muddy feet."
Yeah.
And then you came in and it was like...
Yeah, we had to intervene with her, didn't we, and explain what was going on with her, but at first we didn't know
Yeah,
what was going on ourselves. It's just you had to get into school uniform, didn't you? Which didn't go well. And school shoes and all of that, and then you had to get changed for forest school and changed for PE and changed for dressing up, and like, you know, had to do stuff with Play-Doh and sticking stuff, and you know, all the things that they do when they're little that you just hated and couldn't cope with.
Did you then start, like, each sense kind of revealed itself to you, or?
Yeah, from the day she was born, I had to hold her.
Because if I was on the ground, if my back was touching anything, I would just cry.
Yeah.
Because it's so uncomfortable.
Pushing away from
Yeah,
everything
I
all
still
the
do
time.
that. If I have a problem with something touching my back, I just do that, like reflex.
Yeah.
What does it actually feel like?
I mean, it's not pain. Like, lots of people like ask if it's pain, and it's not pain. There's nothing actually wrong. It's like, it's just the mental saying, this is danger, it's going to hurt you, get away.
Oh, okay.
So it just is like...
What was it you described it as to Georgie the other day?
Oh, God.
Unbearable discomfort.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a weird feeling. It's not pain, but it's something you just can't have. You just can't tolerate. You used to call it the pricklies when you were little.
And what sort of response did you get for the school then, initially?
So they didn't know what it was either. We had to kind of educate them while we were learning about it ourselves. So I did a big old Google search for everything and came up with heightened sensitivity stuff, and you know, just like there's a kind of, everyone's on a range of how sensitive you are to stuff, and there's this category of highly sensitive people who sort of, it sounded like it fitted the bill with Lily, and then it seemed a bit more extreme than that. There was like highly sensitive, but then there was really having a big issue with it, and you know, not being able to do normal stuff that kids do a lot of the time. So I kept looking. We asked the GP. They referred you to an NHS occupational therapist and to CAMS, but we just got letters from both of them saying sorry, can't help. Didn't even really see you, did they? Just no, sorry. Doesn't fall in the category of stuff we do. So then I found a description of SPD on Google, and it sounded like you.
Right, that must have been really difficult then, because going to the health services or whatever, and then being told, oh, we do for most people everything, but this thing we don't do, so see ya.
Yeah, not you. Yeah, so I've actually had a private medical thing through my work, and I called them up, and they said no, it's not. Basically, it's not a thing.
Well, it obviously is.
It is a thing, yeah, but no, it's not recognised. It's not in the medical dictionary. It's not a thing, but it's recognised in America, Australia, all through Europe, and they've actually got research. They've got brain scans of people with a SPD brain versus a average brain, versus a child with autism or ADHD, and they're all different brain scan patterns. And it shows the bits that are causing the issue. So it's scientifically proven, it's not in the medical dictionary, which is a bit weird. So we had to look for somebody who could help, and we found Ruth, who was an occupational therapist quite close to us, who'd been trained abroad and could do integration therapy.
Like things like so bouncing and spinning. So it's not a case of just needing to be still. It's almost the opposite, there, isn't it?
I think I just liked that.
It is good for you though, isn't it? Ruth says it helps calm the sensory system. Swinging in a straight back and forward, not all over the place randomly,
I like
but straight
that,
back and forward is very
I
calming.
would
Yeah, you do like to go mad all
and
over the place as well, but
gymnastics and I was
not
going upside
necessarily as good for
down,
you, but
back, right, circles,
yeah,
up and down, up and left and upside down all at the same time, all over the place.
but physical activity is good for you, isn't it?
Mm.
But it's a shame because often she ends up not being able to do PE.
You can't play the sport because you can't wear a bib. And I mean, can I not just say I'm on this team in this position and tell everyone that? I don't need to have a bib, but they just didn't let me play. I just had to watch.
So you'd have to stand on the side of the court while they're all playing netball or whatever, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Which is, not ideal, particularly when it's the thing that's good for you. It was just difficult for your primary school to understand what was going on because it's not a known thing, and it's difficult to explain it as well. It's not something that people immediately think, oh right, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't really make sense straight away because it's the way your brain's telling you what your sensations are. You know, your brain's getting confused basically. You feel something, but it's telling you that's dangerous. It's not just a sensation.
And it's quite invisible, isn't it? So, you know, like I don't think any of the children at Writer's Room would have any idea unless we told them.
Yeah.
You know, the only things I've sort of said to them is just, you know, she got sore back, so just don't go and clamp her on the back.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they obviously they learn a little bit more, I think, now because they will see some of the things that have been put out. But other than that, they'd have no idea. Which in one way must be quite good, but then the other way is, if they don't know, then there's maybe more risk of someone inadvertently doing something that upsets you.
Have, like, big issue stuff, and because it's quite a small school in Landmark, I usually get sent to the library, and I've got lots of people coming in and out, and lots of times if there's I had one time when I was there and there was a year 11 class in the library, and as they were all coming in, they were like, oh, is she okay? Because I'm crying, I'm in the corner and I'm crying, and they're like, oh, is she okay? And just coming over and trying to speak to me, and I can't speak because I'm in a freeze situation, and that stresses me, and because I'm more stressed, that makes it worse.
Yeah.
And they don't know what's going on, and also if I'm not in the library, and there's another room that I go to, it's right next to the really small little kids, and I just try and keep it quiet because they'll be stressed and if with the noise, and because I look like I'm having really.
Yeah, it's a natural reaction. If somebody looks like they're having a panic attack, you go and hug them or rub their back or
I had one
talk
time
to
in
them.
Dame Bradbury's when I don't remember what the problem was, but I was in the lunch hall, and one of the teachers came over and just touched my back, put her hand on my back, and I was doing that, and then her hand just followed in, and I was like, no, and I'm just trying to get away, and I can't speak because I'm just crying and crying, and it's making it worse and worse. But luckily my friend came over and said, just stop that. But she would have just kept.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Doing
The sort of 6-year-old or whatever she was at the time can say, no, teacher, stop rubbing her back. She does. It's you would think they would get it, but yeah, it was quite hard to ever get it through. And I think adults have trouble understanding what's going on as well, because there was a lot of, the way that they would say things to us or write things in reports or whatever would give you a clue as to how they were viewing it. There was a report that they put, I was looking at the other day, that they put somebody at your old school had put that you engage in fight or flight behaviours. Fight or flight is a response. It's not, you don't engage in that behaviour. No. It was and always saying things like she can't choose when to follow school rules, and you know, if she doesn't want to put her boots on, it's not that she's choosing or not wanting to. You always wanted to be involved and
I get upset about like having the issue, and that makes me more upset. Yeah. And a lot of the time, why I'm crying is because I'm struggling to participate.
Yeah.
And I really want to.
Yeah, there's nothing you'd like better than to just be able to join in with everybody else, is there?
Yeah.
But
and they're trying to sort of quantify things in their own.
Yeah.
Put things in a box.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. I mean, it's not always easy for anybody, but you know, for a situation like that. But I mean, I must say, it's like, you know, it is an invisible thing to people on the outside, like we've had at Writers' Room. But one thing that probably makes it even more invisible is you always seem to have a very bubbly personality. So it doesn't seem to, obviously, that when you have issues and stuff, it's obviously very traumatizing. But in general, you're quite a happy child, aren't you? Yeah. You know, and it doesn't seem to stop you doing, like when you're saying you wanted to do sports, you've done gymnastics, you've done running. I think for anybody watching this concern, maybe whether their child's got a similar situation or they know they've got a child with a similar situation, it's not stopped you living your life like completely. You know, you've got issues obviously to deal with, but you know, you've done some amazing things. You know, so
yeah, climbed a mountain, as you say. Yeah. I mean, it's like, that was one of the things, wasn't it? That
we had like a school trip in year 6, and it was led by like experts for climbing a mountain. It was Snowdon, and they said, oh, if she can't wear hiking boots and this like coat, she can't climb the mountain. We won't take responsibility for her.
They were going up the hard route, weren't they?
Yeah.
The easy route. It was up the pig and the miner's track or something, which is the climby bit, not the easy
So
one.
you came with me.
Yeah.
And we did it separately, and I did it quicker in like trainers or no, Crocs.
Yeah, you had
Crocs.
like a t-shirt dress.
Yeah, t-shirt dress and Crocs. I climbed a mountain on my own without experts in a t-shirt dress and Crocs faster than the experts and people with hiking boots and coats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like going through, there was like 4 groups, and I was just going, bye, bye, hi, bye, all the way up until the group my friends were in.
And that's your determination to do it regardless, isn't it? You've always, that's one other thing about you, you've always known your own mind. And you won't have people tell you what you can and can't do, will you? If you want to do it, you'll damn well do it.
You know, for people with all kinds of sort of issues, it's very easy for people in charge or you know, society in general just to say, okay, they can't participate, so let's just put them to one side, and it's just an easy cop out, isn't it? And you know, it's particularly when you just think most of it is just for them to need to have an understanding, I guess. And then the more understanding, probably the less stress you get. The less stress you get, the more you're able to participate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were worried about you putting your hands down on the rocks and stuff like that, weren't they? But there's a lot of barriers that go up, and sometimes you've just got to say, well, let's just go and do it. And you know, we did, and it was fine. You had a bit of a struggle at the end, but it was fine.
I was climbing a mountain at super speed.
Well, yeah. And actually, you'd got all the way up and all the way down again with no problems. It was just, can't remember what happened, but on the last bit of walk.
I was having flashes. My back went.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your back, your back went all funny, didn't it? But that was like the last 20 minutes or something. After she got up and down again. So it's not like, you know, it wasn't even related really to the fact that she'd gone up and down a mountain. It was just coincidentally at the same time.
Okay, my back has now just decided to be bad.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the fact that I actually climbed the mountain. It was just kind of an awkward place to be in, to have it.
Yeah. So you can't just kind of never do anything because just in case something goes wrong, you know.
Yeah. And so tell us about climbing Scaffold Pike. What made you decide to do that?
Well, because we did the other one, and that went well.
You knew you could do it, didn't
Yeah.
you? So I thought,
No, it went pretty well. I think I had like a little bit of an issue getting up to the top on the way there, and I ended up in a packet poncho and fluffy boots instead of my original, what I was going to climb a mountain in. I had like 5 nosebleeds on the way up. But then on the way down, it was pretty good. We ran out of water like before we'd barely even started the way down, and by the end I was encouraging you to I was encouraging my mum to try and get down, and I was like running ahead getting ice cream and come on, you can do it.
yeah,
I went like back and forth 4 times, so I did an extra bit as well.
What a brilliant achievement, though.
off to the shop, didn't you?
Yeah.
But again, you were determined to do it because you were raising money for Writers' Room, weren't you?
Which is amazing. Yeah, it was about £2,500 in the end, wasn't it? So,
And it did do really well. That was your motivation for doing it, wasn't it?
and what is it you like about Writers' Room?
So I can write. It's like calm, usually.
Yeah, it's calm in the second session.
Yeah, it was different than creative writing at school, isn't it?
Yeah, and like I had like a creative writing class, and I was like, oh yay, I can like have an hour to just do my writing. I turned up and it's like you have to do a prompt, and this will be marked, and you'll get a score on it. And like I did like 1, and also like eventually we got to say, okay, you can just write whatever, but you can't do something you've already started. And I'm like, so I just have to come up with something in a very boring room with nothing. You have to be silent and just write from the moment you get there for consistent for an hour. It just didn't work. I didn't write much.
Not very encouraging for creativity.
No.
No, also especially for a junior school, we shouldn't really. I don't understand why there's that need for that pressure.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to get children to express themselves, and in every way, whether it's through sport or writing or drama or whatever, you're not going to get the best out of them unless you just say to them, look, here's a chance to write something and just write whatever you want.
With sport, because they obviously like said you can't wear a bib, you can't play, or you can't wear the socks, you can't play.
Yeah.
You don't have the
Can't put your hair
right
up,
school
can't play.
shoes, can't play, can't put your hair up. It's not like it's gymnastics or anything. It's just like, I think it's because it'll get in your face. And like, I really don't care.
You had shorter hair at the time.
Yeah, and I had like really short hair.
There's worse things in the world than getting hair in your face.
Yeah.
Not that I've experienced it for a long time.
So that was not very good. And like with the writing, they'd say like, oh, you have to write from a prompt. And I very struggled with it.
Yeah.
But drama was actually quite good.
Yeah.
Because they said, oh, you don't have to wear the school costumes. You can just like buy something or look through your wardrobe and put together whatever you want. And if you can't wear it on the night, it's fine. Just wear what you can wear. And you don't have to do any of the like makeup stuff. But I did, because I was given more of a relaxed environment. I was able to do more because it wasn't pressure.
Do it in your own way.
Yeah, I was allowed to do however much I wanted, however much or however little, and also just with it, like you're allowed to. They just like the teacher says, oh, you can, like, give me play suggestions and like basically choose what you want to do, and there's lots of just improv. Just do what you want. There's no like. You don't have to do it from something. You can ask for something, but you can just do it. And like even you can add in your own lines in the big play, and you can tweak your lines as long as it just makes sense and runs smoothly. You can do what you want, and you could bring in props, and it was quite relaxed.
That's the key to it, isn't it? Really, flexibility for you to be able to do things in the way you need to do them, rather than in the fixed way that everybody else has to do them.
maybe you should talk a little bit about all the things that are like that are restrictive for you.
And like wearing things as well. Like my shoulders are bad and my back's quite bad. And like I can't wear socks. Waistbands, a lot of them are bad. And anything too heavy or.
And it's not really soft material.
And seams and things are bad as well.
Yeah.
Lots of clothes things. But also I've got like inside of joints like here and underneath my knees and in my hands are quite sensitive for any like liquid water or something. If it gets wet, I just have to like put it on something fluffy. And like dry it quickly and just like do that. Sometimes I do that.
The
Yeah.
water thing's hard, isn't it? 'Cause
Like I
doing
can't
the bath is
shower,
hard.
and when I have a bath, I have to get out and like immediately distract myself. Like I play games and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and I have to like on my iPad, and I have to just really focus on it, and for like quite a while. Yeah.
And so, what about creams and things like that? You can't use any creams. No.
Never. Cream's very bad. And like even just anywhere on my skin, it touching it's just really.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult as well. If you, like, sometimes you get a bit of dry skin or something, then you can't
Yeah.
use cream. Or if you have like you had a infection in your toenail, didn't you, before? And the doctor said, "Oh, you need some antibiotic cream." And no, can't do that. So I think, and the dentist, you can't.
Yeah,
They're
they
still
say.
working on how to deal with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like they say, like you have to wear these glasses.
Yeah.
No, like do you want to put a blindfold on? It's just like I can't tie anything around my head
No.
for one thing.
We just have to cross each bridge when we come to it, don't we? In terms of, if there's something that goes.
So staying healthy and eating right is probably even more important than I guess.
It is, although eating's a challenge as well, isn't it?
I can't eat much because my taste is also like I can't have anything mixed, so I have to have everything. Well, most things separate. I can't have anything too strong, so like I don't like any sauces. I'll just have just plain stuff.
Because is it the texture as well as the
Textures as well, and nothing spicy.
Any mixtures of flavours or
Yeah.
anything spicy is no good.
Or anything just with a strong flavour.
Yeah, anything with a sloppy texture, no soups or sauces or anything.
And what happens if you eat something like that with it, maybe like a mixture of flavours or a strong flavour? It's just a thing that says this is not right, or
Yeah, I mean it's just if you eat something, I don't know. I really don't like it and I don't deal with it well. And I'll if it's really bad, I'll cry and it'll be a really big issue. I have to drink lots of water and stuff.
If there's if the sensory input overwhelms her in whatever respect it comes, the overwhelm turns into a fight or flight response.
yeah.
Well, fight, flight or freeze, and it tends to be freeze. It has been fight before. And sometimes it's flight as well, but that's what happens.
Yeah, so
and
something triggered in the brain.
and then there's just there's no talking to you, or because it's all
And
just
I
shut
can't
down.
talk.
She's just.
I find I can't talk and I can't speak to anyone, and also lots of times when I'm having an issue, people will try and just calm, okay, go answer this question. I'm like, no, I can't speak to you. I cannot physically speak.
Yeah.
I'm just frozen.
And people take that as sometimes being awkward or as a choice.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Which it's not. No.
I mean, I would imagine with something like that, it's almost like half of it is dealing with what you're dealing with the brain sending these signals and the rest of it, and then the other half is dealing with other people's reactions.
Yeah.
I mean, also at school, like with the food, we ended up, so first of all, I'd just like not eat anything because they have like really mixed stuff. And we said, oh, can we have a packed lunch? And like, no, you have to have the school food and we can't allow that. And then we ended up with just have plain pasta every day. And I'd just have...
Got so sick of that, didn't you? Every lunch.
Every
just
meal.
Plain bowl of pasta.
Yeah.
That's all that
And they said like, oh, you can have some of the salad, but it's mixed. And when they had unmixed bowls, from all the years before me that had eaten, there was like, it was all like, they had the cucumber bowl with like bits and stuff in it, and it just had been all mixed, and they used the same scoopy thing for each bowl, and it was just all massive. Yeah. And like like with like salads and things, sometimes my dad like offers to like take things out and just have that, but I can taste everything that it's been with, so you can't even like take things out of a salad. If it's ever come in contact with any other food, I will taste it.
So you have a heightened sense of taste as well as an aversion to the mixture then?
Yeah.
It just all tastes more, so if something's very tasteful, it's too much.
Yeah. There is, with SPD, it can go either way. There's either the over-responsivity, which Lily has in all senses, or it's under, which is equally as difficult to deal with, because, you know, you bash into something and not know you've really hurt yourself or something like that. But
something poisonous.
and just not know about it.
Yeah, my English teacher, Helen, she has really low sensitivity, and she really hurt her foot really badly, and she thought she'd like sprained her ankle or something, but it was like shattered.
God, yeah.
And she like went to the doctor, said, oh, I think I might have like sprained my ankle or something, and like, no, this is really serious, you need to get to A&E. But yeah,
it's sort of easier to understand that way around for some reason. Then I suppose it's more the impact of it, of when it's over, when you're over responsive, and then you go into fight or flight and all of that sort of side of it as well, more anxious and more
And what about like visual overload? So do you suffer from that, and how does that manifest itself?
Bright lights you don't like. When you did your they did like little nativity plays and little plays and stuff when you were little at school, and they'd be on the stage with a bright light shone on them, and she'd just be like this in a little sheep outfit or something. Everyone's doing their stuff around you, and you're like, because there's a light straight in your face.
I think that's the one that I have the least issues with, probably.
Yeah, probably sight and smell are not too bad.
I mean, also I have colds a lot for some reason, and I have a permanently blocked up nose, so I can't smell much. Yeah, I mean, I can't smell much, but I can smell more than your average person with a blocked up nose can.
Yeah.
I think my worst one is touch.
Yeah.
And at one point it was quite bad with my hearing.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I can hear things if it's all quiet. I can hear something really, really far away, but then if there's lots of noise, I get all overwhelmed, and I won't. If someone's talking to me and there's loads of people talking around me, I can't hear what anyone's saying. Even like a lot when my mum and my dad are like talking in a room together, and they're both like he's talking and my mum's asking me a question, or they're both asking me a question. If any part of that overlaps, I don't know what either of them said. I can't separate it. It's just a big of noise. But yeah, I think when I was little, there was like we were on a walk, and I heard a baby crying, and I was like, oh, where's that baby that's crying? It's like really loud, and there was no baby, and you were like, what? And then like
talking about
10 minutes later, a baby came in a pram that was really, really crying, and you were like, what? I was like, there's the baby.
Yeah, it's odd, because it's just the brain. Your brain can't pick out one noise over others, can it? But but your hearing isn't. And it's not physically your ear, because we took you for an assessment, auditory assessment, and it's nothing physical with the ear. It's the processing of what's going through. Because in that instance it was really quiet. We were out for a walk. There was no sort of noise around. It was just a nice quiet day, and there was just this noise in the distance that she heard sort of 10 minutes before I did, because there was nothing else going on.
Because my brain is like trying to find something, because it's like over.
It's
looking for something, and it's found something really far away.
Yeah.
Then if it's all really close to me, and my brain is again like looking for something, and it's just picking up too much, and it's overloaded, and it can't process anything.
Yeah. It gets overwhelmed. She picks up more than your average person, so you get what they call micro sensations, which everyone else just doesn't even notice.
Micro sensations, like my little
like
sometimes if I have like a big, well, a tiny little, like, I don't know, unseeable
ant or something smaller,
or like something like I've like sometimes like I don't know what, but some sort of absolutely minute insect,
Or something like that.
Yeah.
something that you can't see, and I'll like feel it crawling, and I'll feel all its individual legs.
Oh, wow.
And I'll be like, oh, what's that? And I'll look, and there's nothing there, and I'll like do that, and I can feel it on me transferring onto my finger, and I'll just do that, and then I feel it fall off.
Yeah, it's like any micro sensation that you wouldn't normally notice, or that your brain doesn't focus on, and it's sort of because there's so much that goes on around you, but your brain picks out what the important thing is to focus on.
Yeah, I think there's about 6 or 4% of our actuality is our conscious mind, and it's like 94 or whatever, 96% of our mind is subconscious. Yeah. So all the things like breathing we don't think about.
Yeah.
Well,
it just
I
happens.
actually about that one thing, about that. When like sometimes when like for calming things, you do like a breathing exercise, and like also we did like a yoga thing.
Yeah.
And like in RS there was like a Buddhism breathing thing, and like I kind of, if I think about breathing, I have to actually physically think about breathing and breathe to actually breathe, because if I'm thinking like, oh, I'm breathing, if I do think that, then I stop breathing, and I have to manually breathe.
Yeah.
Otherwise I just won't breathe.
Hyper focus on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I have to like really just focus on something else and get back to breathing subconsciously, which I've got to do now.
Now we've said that. Yeah, 'cause there's just so much going in that it's like a traffic jam, and then everything just gets blocked and nothing works properly, and it's a sort of overwhelm.
Did you feel a lot better once you tried to understand, or once you understood what was going on, or was that something that just happened over time that you didn't really think about?
You were quite young, weren't you, at the time? When we worked it out, we found an occupational therapist, and we went and did some sensory integration therapy, and some other bits. We did the Worboyes protocol, which is like the brushing. It's just like a surgical brush that you brush all over limbs and back every 2 hours for 2 weeks to reset the sensory system, and we've done that a couple of times now. Actually in the middle of doing it again now, aren't we? And a sensory diet. So the sensory integration is like she got you doing some really weird things. It's a bit like Mission Impossible. Like she's going on all these swings and rope pulleys and stuff, and swinging across and throwing a beanbag at a target and singing backwards in French, and like all this weird stuff all together to try and integrate all the different senses and integrate it into her brain, and lots of balance stuff and all that sort of thing. And then Ruth gave us a sensory diet, which is basically a set of exercises that you do on a daily basis, and you were doing that for a while, and various sort of stuff to do at home to try and help, but yeah, what were you 4, I guess, at the time, weren't you? So I don't know what you really remember of that.
I kind of like remember a bit, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, when we first rang her, Lily was, because everything had got so overwhelming with school and all that.
With the whole uniform, and they'd be like telling me to do it, and I had to go in, that it just got so much. Because also, if I pushed myself too far and just go, just deal with it, it doesn't make it better. Because if I do that too much, then I can't, like with like the uniform, I couldn't wear anything. I couldn't, and they kept saying, and I didn't know what it was, so I kept like just saying, oh well, it's normal, just do it because everyone else can, and I did that, and then I couldn't touch myself.
Yeah.
And I was just like in a star shape, couldn't have like any like air moving over me. I couldn't touch myself. I couldn't have anything like blankets or anything. You couldn't touch me anywhere. I was just like that in the middle of the room.
Yeah, just stood there naked in the middle of the floor, arms up, legs apart, couldn't touch her own skin, crying, and you can't even hug her or, you know. So that was a pretty low point. And that's when we managed to find Ruth to help. I think the first session or two, we literally took you there in a blanket because that was the only thing that we could get her in, to try and get some help with it. But it has improved hugely since then, hasn't it?
And wasn't there a time where you would put your uniform on or we put your clothes on the night before if you were in the... So explain a bit about how that works.
Yeah, in the afternoons or just like early night time, it is for some reason better. Maybe it's because I've been like absorbing sensitivity stuff, and I've been like my brain's got a bit more used to it for however long I've been up and awake. But after like the night, I've not been, and in the morning it's quite bad. But yeah, so like I was saying, I can put my hair up in the afternoons, like late in the afternoon after school, usually just like now, like for like an hour after school's ended, I can put my hair up, which is kind of annoying.
That was your plan to get to school for a while, wasn't it? To get dressed before you went to bed so that you could... Because we used to have awful trouble in the mornings. Every morning was just hell. So, you know, you can't brush your teeth, you can't wash, you can't dress, you can't brush your hair, you can't do any of the normal morning routine stuff.
Yeah, when I have like a bath, I'll do it at like 6, and then I'll spend up until about 8. I mean, I'll be in there, and like also for I wore little glove things, which was a struggle to find gloves that I could wear to because I couldn't touch the shampoo stuff because it's sticky. I have to wash my hands really thoroughly, and then because they're wet, I have to do my thing. And I've got like a spray thing that dries super quickly and isn't sticky, which is amazing, for like washing my hands with. But yeah, I have to do like lots of stuff in the afternoon to actually be able to do it.
Yeah, because you just would never get to school on time, would you, for a while? So that was the only way you could actually sort of just get up and go. Already dressed in school colours but not school uniform was the kind of what we ended up with.
I had a moment a bit where it was really not working. I was going in a green spotty onesie, which was not a school thing at all.
No, that was the only thing you could wear for a while, wasn't it?
So now when you have like issues and there's a problem with your back or your skin or whatever, obviously it doesn't change how horrible it is for you, but having an understanding of what's going on, does that help more than if you think back when you didn't really understand what was going on?
I mean, I was very young when I didn't know, so I don't really have anything to compare it with, really.
It was a relief for me because I felt like, you know, at least we've got some idea what's going on now. And it, although it's horrible for you and it's, you know, really quite difficult to do the normal daily things, it's not in itself dangerous, and it, you know, ultimately it's not something that's going to be serious problem for your health. It's more now really about the anxiety that it causes. And
Yeah, because I get really... When it actually happens, I kind of panic, and also I really don't do well under pressure. And like sometimes like I've got the stress of like there's the little kids and they're gonna get scared if I don't quiet down, but that in itself makes me more noisy because I'm more stressed. And like any extra pressure just makes it harder. And like also before I've had a problem, like just like getting in, I'm like stressed about, I'm thinking it's gonna go wrong, and it goes wrong, and I'm like really stressed about it, and when it actually happens, like, oh, there, it's happened, it's what do I do now? Yeah. And I just get really like worried and stressed about thinking it's gonna happen and it happening.
Yeah.
About what I do in that situation.
Yeah.
Like when you've been to places that have those facilities, have you tried out like sensory rooms and all that? Is that any help or?
Yeah, I mean it's not a massive help. The main thing for you is fluff, isn't it? Fluff and animals, dogs, because it's, you know, the feel of it is soothing.
Yeah.
So you know, she carries around a square of material that is fluffy,
and that's like mainly for like my hands, and that's like if it gets wet, I'll put it in there, and like just separating it. But it has to be a good material to separate it with.
Yeah, and you have a blanket, don't you, all the time in case you need it, because you need to put it in between your fingers or put it on whatever.
In between, yeah.
Yeah. You know, generally calm environments are good, but the sort of visual stuff isn't necessarily a huge help for you, is it? But, you know, it is for others.
Yeah.
It just depends which senses particularly.
Is there any research going on, you know, into that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, because it's not recognised at the moment, there's no medication or anything that is available for it, but they are researching, and really the treatment at the moment is the sensory integration stuff. There are other things that we've tried which are related, which are, you know, things like retained reflexes, primitive reflexes that you have when you're a baby, because of the difference of the way a child with sensory issues develops. Some of those reflexes don't get integrated, and therefore you end up having to deal with that later as well. You had the fear paralysis and the startle response that continued on, didn't you? The fear paralysis and the startle response were both sort of giving her a fear response to things. So we did some work with a chiropractor who did some exercises that help you get through retained reflexes, and it's kind of mimics what the young child does in terms of I can't remember what you had to do particularly, but just sort of different movements and repeated different movements, and it mimics what either the child does in the womb or soon after birth or whatever it is that you missed out on because you were moving in a different way or standing up all the time and not doing the whole tummy time thing and all of that sort of stuff.
Tummy?
When you're a baby, they tell mums to put the babies on their tummy and have them like play around with stuff in front of them on their tummy, because it's part of how you develop and part of integrating these sort of reflexes. So some of that actually made a big difference. And the auditory processing
I had
helped.
With my ears was really bad. With even if there was like one person whispering and somebody talking to me at a reasonable volume, I wouldn't know what they were saying because of the person whispering, or like any kind of noise, even like if there was just some kind of noise in the background, consistent noise and someone was talking, I still wouldn't know what they were talking about. I had to be dead silence, one person talking at a nice volume for me to actually get what they were saying.
You basically learned to lip read, didn't you?
Yeah, I can really well lip read now from that time.
Experience, yeah.
But yeah, you had therapy, a listening therapy, which was sort of music at different frequencies, and that seemed to work pretty well as well and helped out, didn't it? You know, just working on the psychological side of it and the anxiety and calming the fight or flight response and that side of it as well. And we did the Thrive programme, didn't we, that Alice recommended from Writer's Room.
So EMDR.
And yeah, that's what we're looking at now, is EMDR. But there's various research going on about whether some medications could help. But then, you know, there's a question of should you really be medicating it or not, or, you know, what are the side effects and what medication are you talking about. At the moment they're looking at sort of antidepressants and things like that to try and dampen the senses, but obviously the knock-on of that is not necessarily what you want either. Well, if your senses are all dampened, then, you know, your life just becomes less almost. It's, you know, it just the way you respond to things, you don't see things in the same way, and it can be
because if you think about like it's, even though you had all that to deal with, it's not stopped you being creative whatsoever. I mean, you've done music, you've done writing, you've done all kinds of stuff. So I guess it's that if you take antidepressants, it's calming everything down, and so because your sharpness is obviously has helped towards that creativity. There's no question about that, you know, because you creative people tend to be a lot closer to their emotions and to their sensitivity, which can be brilliant, but can, you know, if things are good, then you'll be feeling on top of the world more than anybody else. But if things are bad, you'll feel worse than someone else who doesn't have that sensitivity in the terms of creativity and stuff. So yeah,
and you've always had a massive imagination, haven't you? Always had an amazing imagination. She's just like got her own worlds going on in there from when she was little, and you know, you're writing books and stories and things
Yeah,
from
it was like when I
very small, weren't you?
cleared out one of my drawers, and I was like finding, like before I could even actually write, I'd got my grandma to write stories down for me, and I'd just say them and she'd write them, and there was like little post-it notes taped together and a little story, and then when I could write, it was like my massive handwriting, could barely actually read it. They're like really long, like proper stories that it's not like really simple and kind of not even like children's book stuff. It's quite substantial, actual story.
And it's
Quite a lot to it.
You said to me before it's an escape for you as well, writing, isn't it? You have your own little world, and you would always ask me to be this character or that character,
I
and
like
we
to
would
do
be in
plays and things.
be in your little world, wouldn't we?
I'd write scripts and stuff.
oh, that's brilliant. It's like I was reading a book the other day, and it said the person said, they were talking to a writer, and they said something like, do you escape into those different worlds because you don't want to live in the real one? And the response was, no, you have to live everything you write, and everything you make up in your mind. If you make up a world, you're living that almost in the same way as you live in the real world. So which can be fantastic. I mean, if you're creating stories and a world of things that are happening, it is a brilliant distraction, but it's much more than that. It's an enrichment, because you put yourself into that world, and you're almost as real in that world as you are in the other world. So and to have that ability, you would never want to quash that, you know.
They did some, I don't remember why, but there was some sort of activity thing, and they were like saying to like create a place and put yourself in it, and I had like this whole massive
World.
thing.
The universe.
Yeah. Yeah, that you've always had this way of having sort of worlds with lots of different characters and intricate details of, you know, what's going on in there. Yeah, and you know, you wouldn't want to lose any of that as a side effect of medication to help with the touch sensitivity, really, would you?
Yeah, so but you kind of really connected up with Alice kind of fairly early on at Writer's Room, and now you help her as much as she helps you. That's what she tells me.
You get on really well with Alice, don't you? I think she gets you, doesn't she? Listens to you and on your wavelength a bit. Yeah, she recommended the Thrive programme for you as well, didn't she? We did that last summer, and that was really good. We've done it again recently. I'm doing it again recently just to help with the kind of mental attitude side of things. Because again, Alice is, you know, has her own struggles, but she's a very kind person and she's very focused on everyone else, and you know, so yeah, quite similar really in a lot of ways, aren't you?
And is there any sort of support groups or anything like that out there for this kind of thing?
I think lots in like other countries, like America. There's like, because it's a recognised thing in lots of other countries. They have all their SPD stuff, but here it's just like not much.
No, there's not really. I think there's one sort of online thing of a mum that just set it up. It was a bit of a loss. It's just kind of set it up as an online group with just some information and stuff. But there's not a lot because
It's not
really
recognised.
it's not recognised, and so either it gets bucketed with something else, which
There's
it's
lots of,
not.
like it said, like it's autism spectrum.
Yeah, or ADHD, or
Yeah,
you know,
but
it,
it's
yeah,
not.
gets bucketed with other things, which, you know, in one respect is sort of fine if it helps you get help that you need or whatever, but at the same time, it doesn't help understanding actually what's going on, because it is quite a different thing, really.
Yeah.
So if you get bucketed in with another condition, it doesn't help the awareness, it doesn't help people understand what you're going through, it doesn't help, you know, people give you the right accommodations, and so that's a bit of a difficult one, really. I'm trying to work out how to get some help for you at school at the moment, aren't we? Because they can't really, they don't have the resources to help Lily if she's having a problem during class and she needs to leave the classroom. She has to go somewhere else in the school and be looked after or supervised at least. And there just aren't the staff hanging around waiting for, you know, something to do to be able to do that. So they're looking at an EHCP at the moment, but it's difficult because it's not SPD. It's an educational healthcare plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it helps you get funding for support in schools. So if she had an autism diagnosis, then she would get funding and support in school, and they would have you know, a teaching assistant or whatever available for her to support her. So it's a bit hard. I mean, we did talk about it with her primary school as well, but they pretty much said you won't get one because, you know, you don't have a diagnosis as such in that respect that's recognised here. So you're in a bit of no man's land really with it, aren't you? But, you know, there are things that we can do and things that we are doing. There's various other stuff that we've been looking at lately, isn't there? EMDR and neurofeedback and stuff which is all to do with the neuroplasticity and trying to help that way.
And what kind of things do you like doing outside of school? What activities and
Writing, sleeping,
but you have friends over and do
talk. We chat about a wide range of random things.
But you've been camping. You went when you water rafting.
Do a yearly camping trip.
Yeah, we went paddleboarding this year, didn't we? That you did very well with, and I went head first in.
And you go cycling sometimes.
I do struggle with like anything on my head, like hats and things, so I can't wear a bike hat.
Yeah.
So I can't go on roads.
Yeah.
We go around national trust paths and stuff, don't we? Off-road biking.
Yeah.
Which is great. But yeah, we've had a few issues with that. I think it was the last time we went. Was it the last time we went for a bike ride? Probably. We were doing a little video for Alice while we were going.
Oh,
And we stopped halfway round and had some lunch, which was a bad idea because then we had to get back on the bike again, and it all went wrong.
Ended up wearing my mum's coat as a skirt.
She had to take her trousers off in the middle of the National Trust. And
like I was like barely sitting on the seat, and I was just kind of just in front of it with the coat as a skirt, and just the arms hanging off weirdly as a skirt.
Yeah, it was a weird look.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah. But we got through it. There's always a way through it, isn't there?
No matter how weird.
That's the other positive out of it. You're very good at problem solving these days. There's always a way out of it somehow. It's just a question of finding it.
And what would you say to a parent who's just either coming to terms with that or just been diagnosed, or the child's been diagnosed and stuff? What would you say to them? Because obviously you've been through having to find this all yourself, and nothing's been out there for you to work out what's what. So
yeah, just knowing what it is. I mean, I think it is hard when the GPs don't really know, what to do with you, and you have to kind of work it out yourself. But there is a lot of information out there on sensory issues because it's recognised in lots of other countries. So there is a lot there, and if you read through it and it just light bulb goes off and it's, oh yeah, that's what it is. And there was just, once I read through it, there was just no question. That's definitely it. And then you can start to kind of find people. And there are occupational therapists, all over the country that have trained in sensory integration therapy. And that's always the first sort of port of call. And does have a good impact. It got you from a place where you were completely struggling, couldn't wear anything, couldn't leave the house, couldn't go to school, back into some sort of normality. There's all these other sort of therapies and things as well. The difficulty, I suppose, as well, is that we had to do that privately. We had to fund it ourselves, and not everybody's in a position to be able to do that even, so that's got to be pretty tough.
But it's not stopped Lily from achieving or having a good life. It's just obviously difficult at times, but
yeah, it is difficult, and sometimes we have to sort of remember that it's all she's known, so it's not like
it's her normal.
It's not anything different for you, is it? Just is what it is. But you've always been a positive, happy girl who has always known her own mind and is quite determined, and that's kind of pulled you through it, really.
And have you sort of researched where this comes from, or have any idea where it comes from?
There's not really much known about what causes this. There's all sorts of kind of theories about environmental factors and hereditary factors, but we were looking into something that's quite a new area of scientific research, and sounds a bit mind-blowing, really.
I don't think it is.
No. But it's sensory. There can be a sensory impact from a trauma. So, for example, PTSD. If you are somebody who goes off to war and come back and you have PTSD, and it can be a sensory thing, and it can be a sound going off that sets your fight and flight response into action. And they've discovered it is similar with the Romanian, the babies and the young kids who were just brought up, without parents and without the loving families, and in conditions where they were sort of neglected from a sensory point of view. There's those impacts there that any sort of traumatic event, and particularly in a childhood age, can cause sensory issues later on. So the older that you've got, or the kind of closer to teenage years that you've got, the things that you deal with have started ringing more bells with me. So I have or had some sort of sensory issues, and still do now, which I believe were related to trauma from my childhood, because they started around the same sort of time, and it's sort of a almost like a PTSD type effect. And this research that we've been looking at lately says that, and it sort of makes sense, but if you have some sort of trauma in your life, and the response is to try and deal with that, and that can be a sensory response, it can actually change the gene expression. With epigenetics, it can sort of leave a tag on your gene, and then that can be passed through, inherited by your children. And the thinking behind it is that it's sort of a protective mechanism for your offspring to be protected against the similar sort of trauma. And it does make sense. It sort of gives you, it's like passing on an instinct. And so that's where the EMDR comes in, because that it's thank you, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It replicates REM sleep, where your eyes move quickly in REM sleep, and that helps you process your dreams, and helps you process what's gone on through your day. So the idea is that it does the kind of REM sleep thing for you to help your brain process, because the problem is, if with inherited trauma, you didn't have the trauma yourself, so you can't then kind of
make sense of it.
Yeah. Go back to memories of anything or anything like that. It's just the way it's been handed down in terms of the gene expression. And but they have done research that shows that you can treat it even though it didn't happen to you. So that's the EMDR thing, and also neuro feedback. seems to be quite an interesting one, but that involves putting a cap on your head with sensors on it, which there's no way Lily's going to be able to do or want to do, are you? So we're doing EMDR for now. But it does seem to have sort of a calming effect, and what it's supposed to do is sort of take the fear out, take the fear response and the fight or flight response out, which that kind of, once it kicks in, it reinforces the cycle, if you know what I mean. It's, if you can cut that out, then it's just, oh, this is really uncomfortable, I don't want to deal with it, I'll go and do something else, or I'll go and change, or whatever. And the last few times you've had a major issue, rather than having a meltdown and a fight or flight response and going of that, you've kind of more calmly said, this is going wrong, it's not going to work, I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to have to do that, and gone through all the things, and then actually got yourself out the other side, haven't you? And although you might have been upset by it because it stopped you doing something, there's not been the kind of freeze response and the
so it's like
the anxiety around it,
like a preempting of it, sort of thing.
Yeah, it just somehow stops the anxiety around it, or just stops it kicking off into a big spiral.
Well, that's got to be good, isn't it? Because if it's trying to break that the brain pattern, isn't
exactly,
it?
yeah.
And of course, the anxiety is the thing that will constantly rewire the brain in that mode, won't it?
And that's exactly it. So that the neuroplasticity is then working for you rather than against you as such. So if you can cut through that.
So that's good. So even though you're going through tough times, you're still making progress.
And I think that's that's partly the key to it, isn't it? It's working to understand it and having something that you can do about it, and not feeling that you're just sort of stuck with it, stuck with dealing with it. And the other thing is, it comes in phases, doesn't it? So you kind of always know.
It changes a lot what the issues are.
Yeah, there's good and bad things to that. So, it comes in phases, so you always know in a down period that you'll get through it. It will get better. But on the flip side of that, the difficulty is that you come up with a solution and that's great and that works that afternoon, but then the next morning it's like, that's out the window, what's next? You've got to come up with something else, because it's a different problem, it's slightly different, something else is, what you did yesterday doesn't work anymore for whatever reason. So it's
also, like, sometimes with school things, I'll have like a solution to an issue. Like, I think I had like a back issue, and it was because of the way my top was on my back, and I put like a blanket around myself, and that's the solution to that issue. And then a few days or weeks later, I had another back issue, but it wasn't because of my top, it was just my back, and they were like, oh, put the blanket on, that's the solution that we came up with. And I was just, no, that doesn't work, because it's not to do with the top, it's just the back. I need to get it off my back, the blanket as well. It won't work.
Yeah. And it's quite frustrating when you've come up with all these solutions and you think you've got it nailed, and then the next day, no, back at square one again. So I think that's quite hard for schools as well to deal with. But it's now another one of your talents, isn't it? Problem solving. So there's positives from it as well.
Yeah, I think each life experience brings new skills, doesn't it? Even the negative ones. So hopefully you'll find a way to minimise things, and then all the things you've learned during that time will be things that not many people would have, and you can put that to good use. And even just doing this video out there for other people to see is gonna be a massive help, not just for people who have got it or their family members have got it or whatever, but just for people like myself to understand it better.
Yeah, well, this is it, isn't it? Yeah, it's about awareness as well, because it's not at all well understood. And it is hard to understand because it is so different. It's so different for different people, and it's so different one day to the next for an individual as well. So, you know, it's not something that's consistent and easy to get or deal with.
And what about sleeping and stuff? You know, if you've got to have a duvet over you, how do you sleep on your side or your stomach or?
Things are better later in the day. I mean, hopefully I've got to sleep before like it's morning, and like early morning.
Yeah.
But like really, I can't stay still for like sleeping and things. I have to have usually like quite soft things.
But you like to sleep on a hard floor, don't you?
Oh yeah, I don't like any mattresses. I sleep on the floor.
With soft blankets on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always struggled to get to sleep, didn't you? But we do a like a sleep cast now, like a story sleep cast that to get you off to sleep, mindfulness thing that seems to help to get you off to sleep, doesn't it? So you're getting more sleep than you used to maybe, but you still wake up in the night. And
also like I move a lot. I'll wake up in very strange positions. Like, because I sleep next to a wardrobe, a few times I've woken up with my head in the wardrobe and like I flip way round and
yeah, sort of make a nest, don't you, full of fluffy animals and
anything I've brought. Like, also I like to like read, and sometimes I'll fall asleep whilst doing it, or I'll just be like, it's really dark and I'm too lazy to put the book back, so I'll just put it on the pillow, and then I'll wake up and it's just all mixed in with everything else, and I've got like torches and like bottles of water just everywhere.
Yeah, you like a messy little pit, don't you, to sleep in?